Thank you very much and welcome. For those of you who are still here, can you mind just all turning behind you and waving because it's actually being live streamed? No, turn around because the camera's behind. Wave at the camera. Thanks, guys. Around the world, your wave has just been seen. Thank you all very much. So I'm going to ask these three questions and hopefully you will be able to be a little bit better educated when we get back, which is, how and why do airlines manage inventory, etc., etc. And I guess the question is it broken? How many people who are in the audience know what this is? No, you don't count, sir. You know what it is? Okay. It's a telex machine. This is the machine that powers airline distribution. It is this stuff. It really, of course, should be this. But this is what is running the airline distribution systems of today. It was invented round about the turn of the 20th century. So it's a real problem. And of course, this is how people buy things today. They think in these terms. They think in terms of social, the shopping cart. But the stuff at the back is fairly well broken. So I asked this kind of question yesterday, and really, if you look at the top line, that's kind of the real problem. We have old technology labored on top of more old technology and more old technology and more old technology. So basically, the other point that I'd like you to draw from this slide is the bottom item. How many people think that airlines are customer focused? Right, you're all right. You'll get a prize for that. Right. Now, if only we had a magic wand and we could understand everybody's core digital DNA and the context for a specific trip. We actually pretty much know that. What we're seeing today is, strangely enough, humans are remarkably predictable. You can actually predict what people are going to do. And so if their behavior is predictable, we're all predictable because we're all humans, surely we should be able to do a much better job. But we don't. We do a very bad job. Who booked a trip in the last week? Yeah, great experience, wasn't it? Anybody really enjoy the experience? No. Oh, you did? You must see me afterwards because clearly I want the same drugs you're on. Okay. But is it about keeping you happy? We really need to simplify the process. The process is so horrible. You get thrown at so many things, there's so many choices, it's so difficult. But really, please make me happy. I really enjoy booking trips. I actually like it. Yesterday, if you came to my session, and please download the session yesterday, we had a guy who explained over 200 touch points engaged in the actual trip process. So it's very important to kind of understand now that we are very disconnected. So here are what we think are probably the key airline problems. You know, frequency of use of the product. We don't book a lot of trips. We don't do it every day. Who's a big user of Uber here? Who uses Uber? Oh, terrible people. You're all breaking the law, just that I tell you that. But you do it on a regular basis. You don't buy airline tickets on the same level of frequency. So your experience of doing things in a particular way, you know how Uber works. You know how Amazon and Alibaba work. So it's very hard. And of course, airlines are far too siloed to notice this. And they do not cooperate with each other, which is a huge problem for people like us who are trying to build software. So it really should be about the focus on the customer. Now, within this context, you've got supply and demand, but you've also got government stuff over there, and you've got competition over there. Interesting. But this is perhaps really what we call the big 3 C's, the customer context conundrum. Am I the same person when I'm booking a business trip as the same person who booked a leisure trip? Of course not. I'm going to behave totally differently. But what's different about buying an Uber or buying a book? I behave differently, but I'm still the same me. I just don't have an ability to show and demonstrate my context. So it's important to think about all these things which are there, which are causing a lot of issues, and to try and make it a lot easier for the customer to get into the process in the 3 key processes. That is searching and shopping, the actual buying, and then what we call fixing the trip. So before you go, you need to do things you didn't quite do. Did you select your seat? Have you got your boarding pass? All those things that are done before you actually turn up at the airport. By the way, there's one thing I hate worse than airlines. Can you guess what it is? Airports. I hate those with a passion. And I calculated last night, I was doing a little calculation. Last year, I spent 2 weeks of my life in airports. I am a really sad human being. All right, so let's think of some more key questions that we need to ask. What are the primary products that customers want or expect to buy? Very few people actually want to buy an airline ticket. They don't really want to have an airline ticket. What they want to do is to get somewhere. I want to go somewhere. An airline ticket is just a means to an end. So the second question, I love the second question, is do people buy the lowest fare? The answer is no. I believe the statistics I've seen, it's typically between 10 and 15% of people actually are able to buy the lowest fare that's on offer. Anybody ever tried to challenge an airline with the good thing, which is try to use the airline's lowest fare guarantee? I defy anybody in this audience and anybody in the world to tell me they've ever been successful with an airline's lowest fare guarantee. It's bullshit. So, are they different from other products that people buy? Well, it's experiential, but is it really that different? I think my question 4 here is one that troubles me a lot. Do people trust airline products that they see on the website? So, is it difficult? Which one of these do you like? Anybody vote for the one on the left? Actually, I would vote for the one on the left because I've got more control over it. There you go. It's not actually, it's WorldSpan, but we'll let you off this time, right? This one is airline.com, and this is SeatGuru. Problem is you can't buy on SeatGuru. It's got great information, but not enough information. So you really, to get the raw information, you have to go to airline.com. The reason people who have actually done this, and I'm a sad person like you, who actually know what this thing is, I can manipulate the one on the left. I find it very hard to manipulate this one, because this one is trying to manipulate me. And there is nothing more infuriating to a customer, somebody on a website, than when you are not given the right level of choice and they try to manipulate you. And believe me, customers and consumers hate it. So, is it really too hard to shop? I think it really is. It's too hard to shop and buy an airline product. It is just far too freaking hard. And we've got to do a better job of making it. If anybody followed today's announcement by Lufthansa, which says that they have now partnered with Farelogix to provide more tools and services to book, this is a good sign, because finally people are realizing that you need some better tools than the traditional GDSs and PSS companies. And by the way, I do look under my car every day to make sure that I haven't got a bomb left there by our friends at Amadeus and Sabre. So this is really, really hard to interpret. None of you guys know what this is. What does that number mean? What do those numbers mean? Do you know? The numbers, like F9. You're all wrong. Do you know what it says? You today, at this instant, may purchase up to 9 seats, legally. That's all it says. Actually, it doesn't say that. It's maybe at the end, I'll let you buy 9 seats. That's not, so these things, people call it an availability display. That is not an availability display. It's a lie. There's lies, damn lies, and then there's airline stuff. So let's go back to our 3 questions. How, really why, do airlines manage inventory? Is it good, bad, or indifferent? Well, I believe that the answer is it's bad. Why? Because what you saw here, in this screen here, airlines think in terms of these. They are notional elements of inventory. They are not real inventory units. Anybody know what an SKU is? Thank you, sir. So It's too hard. Really what people want to do is get me the best seat at the best price. If you ask everybody what they really like on an airline, that's the question that they want to have answered, right? Now, how do GDSs enable airlines to manage their inventory and distribute it? Really badly. This is just, this is command line driven. This was designed in the 1950s. People should be embarrassed with this. But that's what people are doing. So what's going to happen in the future? Guess what? It's going to change. But it's going to change probably a lot faster than people think. Because the consumers have been trained, all of us, to buy products in a smarter and better way. And that is going to come to the airline world. Because it needs to. This is just something that we've needed to do for a very, very long time. So let's try to think of the case of when I'm trying to cross-connect. Really what I'd like to do is, this is the world that currently exists. We have inventory systems, different legacy hosts, and we have a cloud, we'll just call it our cloud, Airblackbox cloud. And then the airlines want to take different forms of inventory, and they want to be able to take that and mix it and repurpose it. Can they do that today? No. I can tell you a great story about an airline, in fact 2 airlines, who spent probably upward of around 25 million euros over 3 years just so that one airline could cross-sell the seats of the other airline. It should be a little piece of software that you turn on and be done with it. But it took very long. But this is what is happening. So we are going to attack the problem by creating a new inventory system. We believe that an inventory system has to change, and it should be related to real seats, i.e. the seat map. So that people can choose the seat they want and choose, yeah, I'd like to sit in this seat because it's in the non-screaming class. Anybody know what SBC stands for? SBC stands for the class most of us sit in. It's called Screaming Baby Class. And I unfortunately sit in SBC an awful lot of the time. So this is how we see the future and how we think it is going to change. Today what you have is this top part where this is how things are done in the traditional airline world. It's got traditional problems. It's clumsy, it's messy, it breaks a lot. People get upset, and it really doesn't matter. What is interesting about this is the stuff at the bottom is what is actually happening very soon and now. To give you an idea of scale, does anybody know what Singles Day is in China? Yeah, everybody, okay. China, it's 11/11. In 1 hour, one Chinese airline sold 23,000 tickets in 1 hour. Just think about that. That's a lot. If we could do that every day, every airline would be so happy. How could they do it? They had to create blocks in order to sell it. It was very hard for them to do that. But the customers loved it. They loved the fact that they could buy something literally off the shelf and buy it in the same way that they bought a dress, a pair of shoes, a coat, a lawnmower, a fridge. The same way. So we believe that this is where the world is going. We believe that that world up there has become so complicated and so complex that it will just evaporate and disappear unless people change. So it's important to understand why this is it. That is just complex, messy, and broken because the infrastructure is complex, messy, and broken. Now, I wish I could tell you that I could fix that problem for you overnight, but given the fact there was something like 4.8 billion people boarded aircraft last year, and they are used to working on these systems, and the airlines have no intention really of changing it unless someone forces them to change, then you can understand it's not going to change in a hurry unless the customer behavior changes. And we believe the customer behavior has already changed. But what needs to happen now, going back to my context slide, is that the supply needs to change, because the customer experience, that's really good. We all buy stuff. We buy stuff with our mobiles, you know. Who has bought stuff on their mobile? Excuse me. Okay, who bought one? Has anybody bought something today on their mobile? I did. I bought a ticket this morning. Yes, you did? What did you buy? Sorry? Oh, scary. You're a shopaholic, aren't you? Secret shopaholics. Oh, right. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with people, because this is what people do. They are so now used. It's not mobile first, it's context. Do you really think you're going to book a complex trip entirely on your mobile when you have 200 touch points of engagement with the airline or during your trip? The answer is probably not. It's actually nice to have some real estate, some screen real estate, in order to make some of those decisions. So when people tell me that they have a mobile-first strategy, I'm a little bit skeptical. I think it should be a customer-first strategy, because that is what is important and how the customer now behaves. So these are our 3 levels of product. One is a new digital selling platform that's already live. We're servicing customers in Asia. The second thing is an ancillaries database so that you can actually buy the products that you want. And the third thing is a new way to look at inventory. And that's what we think is how the world will change. So it's important to think, therefore, that when you look at this slide, and when you look and you think of how is somebody going to buy something next Singles Day? How is somebody going to be able to boost that number, not from 23,000 tickets in an hour, let's say to 50,000 tickets in an hour for one airline? Because that's what people do. I mean, the billions of transactions that Alibaba processed on that day are just phenomenal. Does anybody have WhatsApp here? Right? Anybody use WeChat? Good. Do you buy something on WeChat? Yes. How many purchases did you make? I'm sorry, I'm picking on you. How many purchases did you make on WeChat last year? Roughly. 10, 20, or more? Okay. Now, imagine that I think you're sort of like an average Chinese person, right? Who buys that number of things. Think about that, right? How many billions of transactions are bought on WeChat? That's a chat platform. As soon as WhatsApp opens up towards e-commerce, WhatsApp will become very similar and will be doing the same thing. Would you trust WhatsApp as a way to do it? I counted the number of messages I sent last week on WhatsApp. It was 1,200. What am I doing? But that's what people do. You communicate. We're all very social. We like that whole idea. So we are starting to do things in so many blurred ways that you cannot force the customer through things. In one of the, I think it's in Hall 7.2, has anybody played with Pepper, the robot? Go have a play with him. Or her, excuse me, it's a her, isn't it? Yes. You know why it's called Pepper? It's Iron Man's Girl Friday, right? That's why it's Pepper. So when you go and look at it, what you understand from this, and this really came out from yesterday's conversation on chatbots, is today the purchase process for buying an airline ticket is entirely fixed. There is just one workflow, and you have to follow that workflow in order to get there. It's not the future. The future is, I don't know if I want to be price-led. I don't know if I want to be schedule-led. I don't know what I want to do. I might not really want to do something. So a lot of people talk about cart abandonment in shopping for airlines, and they're all worried about those numbers. I can tell you something that's very interesting. Cart abandonment is actually a good thing for airlines. Why? Because it shows that the customer went to the point of asking, what is the real price for the trip that I want? That's their question. Because they do not trust the shopping results, nor should they. Because the number of shopping results that allegedly show the lowest fare is very high. How many people have gone into an airline site, gone through the process, and got, I'm sorry, there's an error, and it's your fault? Right. According to airlines, that never happens. Let me assure you, from our statistics, we know that many of the offers that are actually put out in the initial results are actually not achievable. The inventory was never there to start with. And you can blame Google for that, because Google created the need for caching. So here's another view of the world. This is Saber's view of the world. They've just put out this paper, and I think it's very interesting, because finally what you're seeing is, yes, I actually want to choose the seat on the plane away from SBC, and I will pay so much. But I need to have a tool to visually explain to me that I could actually choose the seat I want in a quiet zone. Can airlines sell you a quiet zone seat? Maybe. Some airlines do. We have a customer, Scoot, who does that. So think about this as being seat-led rather than availability-led or price-led. If you knew what it takes to make a reservation at the back, some of you would go spare. And there's a couple of us in the audience who've worked on this for a very long time. So we actually see things a little bit different. We think it is about the customer. We think it is about customer engagement. But what we're really thinking about is brands and products. That's what people care about. The loyalty to brands and products is quite remarkable, but the loyalty to airline products is quite low. Why are airline products always low in the totem pole when it comes to brand and trust? Interesting. When you look at the world's most trusted brands, the 100 that is put out every year, how many airlines are in that category? Anybody take a guess? The answer is 2. Do you know who those airlines are? FedEx and UPS. No passenger airline ever makes it into the top 100 trusted brands. Isn't that sad? For anybody who's an airline, they should be hanging their head in shame. But this is what people want to do. They want to buy products they're familiar with. So what we have done is to go and take that approach to how we sell products for our customer airlines, which is, if the brand is Airline A and he's trying to do a cross-sell, we take Airline B's product, we transform it and make it look like, oh, Airline A, because after all, that's what the customer is expecting to buy. So we are a software company. We are a B2B company. We're not in the brand business, but we aim to power brands. So some of my colleagues, as you can see, there really isn't a young face on there. We're all gray-haired, grumpy guys. But that's what we do. So really what I'd like you to think about then is, let's go to what people are saying about us. And we've won a couple of awards because, well, guess what? We tried to approach it differently. So going back, before we finish, all the way here, if we look here, this is what it's about. This is really what it's about. Everybody has focused on this side of the equation, yet everybody is constrained by what is on this side of the equation. What we need to do is to bring them into context together. But the constraint sits here. It doesn't sit there. And what we need to do as providers of services to customers in the airline world is to solve this problem, because once we solve this problem, this one can achieve its true potential. Well, that's really all I had to say. So if any of you would like to ask any questions, please feel free. I'll just give you our context. This is who I am. Timothy O'Neill Dunn. You can catch me. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I tend to be rather acerbic. So one of the things I do is I blog under the brand name of Professor Sabina. And those of you who are also old enough to know what Sabina stands for, anyone remember what it stands for? Such a bloody experience, never again. This is who we are. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Lots. We sell a lot of tickets. Yeah. So what we think is that the notion of a ticket actually is the wrong thing. Is how many customers do we give them what they wanted? That's really more of it than anything else. All right. Any other questions? Because I know we're a little bit short on time. I'm going to try and finish on time for these people. If you don't, please feel free to engage with me and contact me. And I'd like to thank you all for the audience. Remember to wave at the audience.